One of the most common questions I get are, what are the things I should be doing to work to optimize my health, my lifespan, live longer? Same type of question. I'm going to break down the 7 things that you can start doing or look into doing to help get the data that you need to live your best life. It's not always just about a supplement, but it's about getting that initial data so that you can use it, understand it, have your doctor help you, walk you through what you need to do to make an educated plan specific to you. What works for your best friend or works for your mother is not necessarily going to work for you. So here we go. Number 1, DEXA scan. DEXA scans are not just for osteoporosis, even though it does give us a really good insight into bone health. It also is going to give us a lot of insight in terms of your fat mass, how much fat, what body fat percentage is. We want you optimally under 25%. We want your BMI to be optimally under 25 as well. BMI is not as great of an indicator as a DEXA scan will be. DEXA scans are better than the other scans you're going to do at the gym. Some of them called InBodies and other things. There's data out there that shows this because the technology is different and not that expensive. If you can, do a DEXA scan. It's going to give us your body fat percentage. It's going to give us your amount of visceral fat. That visceral fat is going to let us know how much fat is around the organs and in the abdomen. There's an increased risk of obesity when you have high visceral fat. There's a higher risk of heart disease, a higher risk of diabetes, higher risk of potentially cancer. So you want to do the things you can to work on your visceral fat in terms of the data you're going to get regarding your bone mass, your risk for osteoporosis. We know there's an increased risk of increased morbidity and mortality for patients who are osteopenic, especially females who are menopausal. We know that there's, again, an increased risk when you have increased visceral fat. We know there's an increased risk of morbidity and mortality for patients who are obese, have an elevated BMI. So we're going to get your waist to hip ratio. That's actually very simple. You can do it old school with a tape measure, but this is going to get a little more specific. We want everybody under 1.0 ratio. We want women usually around 0.85, 0.75. You're going to get the muscle mass, you're going to get your body fat, your visceral fat. We're going to get your waist to hip ratio. And all that can be followed every 6 months to a year to see how you're doing. All these numbers can be improved with medications, supplements. There's some technology out there that may help. Optimizing your workout routine using doing more resistance and higher intensity workouts. So that's number 1, get a DEXA scan done. Number 2, CRP. CRP, a high sensitive CRP, is going to give us your body's level of inflammation. That is very important. We know there's a term now out there called inflammaging, which means inflammation leads to aging. And the more that you can do to limit your inflammation, the less potential risk that you have. Inflammation is going to cause damage to linings of membranes, including your gut lining. We know the gut's linked to everything, the gut-brain, gut immune axis, gut mood axis, all these different things. Your gut is linked to your skin. So we don't want to cause any damage there. Inflammation could lead to problems in terms of your other organs. It's going to lead to poor blood flow and so on. So we want to get an idea of where your inflammation is. And one of the best ways of doing it in a simple blood test is in high sensitivity CRP. There's other things out there like a SED rate. It's just not as accurate, does not give us much information. And a high sensitive CRP may give us insight to how well the heart is doing. There are heart specific CRPs as well that you can do either separately or in a different lab or at the same time to really get a full idea of where your health is. So that's number 2. The third thing that we're going to talk about in terms of understanding where your health and your potential lifespan is going to be, grip strength. Something very simple, something that most people don't do, but it's something that you should be doing to assess it, and you should be working on it if it's not good. There's numerous studies that show poor grip strength is linked to shorter lifespan. Simple as that. There's different numbers for different people. I was going to ask, we want men usually in the 60s or 70s. Obviously, that we go with a dominant hand if one is much different than the other. Women, we want at least in the mid-30s. But obviously the higher the better. It's something you can do by doing exercise at the gym, getting one of the grip strength tools off of Amazon. You want to work on your grip strength. So we got DEXA scans, we have CRP, we have grip strength. Those are the first 3. Number 4, the fourth thing that we're going to look at is something kind of a little more ethereal, is how many relationships, good relationships do you have? That's been linked to your health. It's been linked to longevity. Unfortunately, it's become more prevalent as patients now we're getting through the COVID issues, is that they're finding that patients who have better relationships, better closer relationships, not only with their family, with friends, have better health outcomes, have less health issues, less obesity, and potentially may have a longer lifespan. So it's not just about, I know 2,000 people, it's how many of them do you have a close relationship. Those interactions are going to release chemicals, endorphins, that are going to help you be more positive, and it has been linked to health. We know patients that are found to be lonely, it may be the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes. We know that it affects the chemicals in the brain. It triggers the same response as being overly hungry. Being lonely and not having that connection is not good for your health. We tell patients, if you don't have a close relationship with your family, you don't have that close group of friends, try to do one thing a week where you're going to try to socialize and meet new people who share the same interests. You're into running, go to the running club. If you're into stamp collecting, go do the stamp collecting. Go to somewhere where you have to force yourself to speak, because it's not only good for your short-term health, but now we know it's good for your long-term health. So you optimally want to have at least 3 to 5 good connections. Everybody says it too, that we know that the way you act and the way you are is usually some type of reflection of the 5 people that are closest to you. So you want to not just the amount anymore, it's the quality of who they are. Because again, it's just, there's so many things, studies are showing us the benefits of having good quality, numerous relationships over time. And so it's something you definitely want to be cognizant of. Number 5 is something called apolipoprotein B. Is now being termed one of the best measures for understanding cholesterol. It is a carrier of the cholesterol between the different receptors. The number that we want, that's still a debate. There's some people say 80, some people say as high as 120. My goal is to get people less than 90 right now. You take that number, look at that with their family history, what their cholesterol is, and you usually want to look at both an NMR lipid panel, which is like a small dense cholesterol, LDL number, an LDL particle size, and take all that information, and then you also may have them get what's called the calcium scoring for your heart, as well as doing what clearly, which is an AI result evaluation of your heart, and take all those different numbers, and you can kind of get an idea, does this patient need nothing? Does this patient need supplements? Does this patient need to be on medication? There's numerous medications out there. The ones that are going to probably be taking over sooner than later are the PCSK9 inhibitors. They're by far the strongest, limited side effects compared to statins, but they're right now very expensive. They could be up to $10,000 a dose. The companies are working on, and it's also either an injection or an IV. Patients, they're trying to get the cost and the delivery methods down, and this hopefully will change pretty soon. But if your heart's not doing okay and you're at risk of heart attack, you're at risk for stroke, obviously the lifespan and your health span are not going to be good. There we go. So we got 2 more coming up here. The other one we look at is your VO2 max. VO2 max is your maximum oxygen capacity when you're hitting maximum workout. Again, there's not a set number yet of where you should be. There's ranges out there that you can find on different charts from different trainers. You should definitely get a VO2 max testing done to see where you are. You can definitely do things to increase your VO2 max. That's usually involving doing more high intensity workouts for a short period of time. That we know is one of the best ways to improve it. There also may be some structural issues, be it lack of range of motion, spasm. Other things that you can do now is something called an AeroFit or Power Breathe, which are these little pieces that you put in your mouth that you can do exercises for your lungs to help build up your respiratory strength. So that's number 6. Last thing is pretty new out there. It's not available everywhere. I'm just adding it in now because when I'm filming this, there was a big media storm about the fact that a prominent celebrity found pancreatic cancer with this test and would have never known otherwise, and it probably saved her life. And unfortunately, her life would have probably been cut short, and that's something called a whole body MRI scan. There's no radiation associated with it, which is good. I use for my patients and myself what's called a Prenovo. It's PRENUVO scan. You're going to be in there for about 80 to 90 minutes. There's some AI pieces as well, so they can extrapolate from what they see to see what the other things they need to look for. What's great with these scans, they're pretty much going head to toe from the top of your head down to the bottom of your feet. They're able to assess organs and looking for everything from tumors, like I said, It can look for aneurysm problem with the blood vessels. It can let you know in terms of your spine, if there's arthritis, if there's disc issues, there's scoliosis. Adding on, they're now able to assess your liver. They're going to do what's called a neuroquant, which is the ability to see how well the brain is actually functioning, as well as the volume of parts of your brain from the front to the back. That as you get older, the parts of the brain will get smaller, but you want it to be at a proportional rate, and you also don't want it to be one area more than any other area. So those are the 7. There's many more I can list. You could talk about blood sugar. We could talk about fasting insulin levels. We could talk about doing other types of testing like, x-rays and QEEGs and so on. But those are the 7 that are going to give us a lot of information. Most of them are pretty inexpensive. The only thing that's really expensive is the whole body MRI test. The rest of them should either be covered by insurance or not that expensive to do. We'd even go into how to measure sleep. Again, there's a lot more I could add to the list, but those are the 7 that I would definitely strongly recommend. If you have any questions about those 7, definitely put a comment down below. And if you like what we're talking about and want to hear more and be aware when we put new stuff up, which we try to do a couple times a week, like and subscribe to the channel. See you guys soon.